And you're with Great Lakes Now, just in time for the beginning of the next session. We're going to go back into the general Great Ballroom right now, where things are just getting started.
Convened a number of us to talk about the formation of Healing Our Waters, and I really want to congratulate Healing Our Waters for not only a successful conference, but for the amazing progress that we've made over the last few years. So congratulations. Now, since your program was printed and listed the next speaker as a member of the Great Lakes Commission and the Administrator for the Water Division, he has been elected chairman of the Board of Directors of the Great Lakes Commission, so that makes him my boss. So with that in mind, I wanted to review my introductory remarks and make sure I was saying plenty of nice things about him, and so what I'm about to tell you is mostly true, but he can verify that. Since I have been the executive director, Ken is the fourth chairperson that I've worked with, and they have some common characteristics. And first of all, as you can imagine, these are very busy people. They they have day jobs. They're very busy. Governor Quinn was our chair at one time, Lieutenant Governor Cherry from Michigan, and our most recent chair was Jim Tierney, Water Administrator for the Water section of New York State, ran that entire program. And Ken also runs the water program for the entire state of Wisconsin. So these are very busy people, and they don't take this job as chair because they need a new challenge, let me assure you of that. They take the job because they're committed and they care about the Great Lakes, and they care about the opportunity to do more to protect the resource that we all care so much about. So Ken was born and raised in Green Bay. He's a lifelong resident of Wisconsin. He has worked most of his career with the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, but he also did some time with the Illinois Division of Water Resources and with a consulting firm, Mead & Hunt. He worked as an engineer in the drinking and groundwater program and the water regulation and zoning program. From 1996 to 2005, he was the Lower Rock River Basin Supervisor, and in 2005, he was appointed the South Central Region Water Leader position. In April of last year, Ken accepted the position of Water Division Administrator, and he's been a Great Lakes Commissioner since that appointment. He also serves on the Board of Directors of the Great Lakes Protection Fund. It's my pleasure to introduce Ken Johnson.
Thank you, Tim. This is my first official function as the chair of the Great Lakes, and I've got this carefully scripted manuscript that I'm going to go off of because I heard some inspirational words this morning that I just have to build off a little bit. I heard David White talk about, with passion at the end of his speech, about this is our watch. And I find that inspiring. This is our watch. From a personal perspective, it's my watch. It's why I became it's why I went into the water resources field all these years ago. It's my watch. It's why I work for the Department of Natural Resources of the state of Wisconsin. It's my watch. It's why I'm the division administrator with the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. This is my watch. It's why I am on the commission, and then more importantly, it's why I'm the chair of the Great Lakes Commission at this point. This is my watch. And I would challenge everyone around this table to consider that. This is your watch. This is our watch. To make it personal, this is my watch. It's personal to me. So, back on script. It's truly great to be here with you folks as the newly commissioned Great Lakes Commissioner. I'm really humbled. I mean that, humbled and honored to represent the commission as the chair. I'm humbled because Jim Tierney was the past commissioner, the chair, and he did an excellent job being collaborative and cooperative with all the groups around. He's somebody really to emulate. I'm a little surprised to be the chair because I still consider myself a bit of a newbie to the commission. It is what it is. I'm the chair. Lastly, I'm honored because the Great Lakes Commission has done such good work in the past, and I hope to continue that good work. Many of my fellow commissioners probably have left already. To those who are in the audience, thank you for entrusting the Great Lakes Commission leadership to me. I will try to do as best I can with that. For those of you in the room who are not familiar with the Great Lakes Commission, I would point out that it started back in the 1950s and the 60s with some state legislation, and then the Congress built upon that legislation and passed the Great Lakes Basin Compact in 1968, which established the Great Lakes Commission as constitutionally, or I'm sorry, legislatively. The Great Lakes Commission has a broad mandate, and we are engaged in a wide variety of projects and activities. One of those activities that impresses me about the Great Lakes Commission is it's authorized to offer its advice to Congress and federal government. And that really is one of the things we do very, very well. And that is figure out what the Great Lakes region comments should be and offer it to our federal partners in Congress. One of the things that also impresses me about this organization in regards to working with Congress is that it's most effective when it's collaborative with our partners, such as those people that around the room today, like Healing Our Waters Coalition and the Council of Great Lakes Industries, among all the other groups that are here today as well, too. Personally, I have not had the opportunity to work in the Great Lakes my entire career. In past the last 15 years of my career were spent managing waters that were interior to the state of Wisconsin, not along the Great Lakes. For the last year and a half, I've been the division administrator for the state of Wisconsin, and I've worked on issues, water resources issues, throughout the Great Lakes. And throughout the Great Lakes, for Lake Superior and Lake Michigan, and water resources issues throughout the state of Wisconsin. While I've worked in water resources for all of my career, I think one of my strongest credentials for becoming chair is that I grew up along the shores of the Great Lakes. It's part of who I am. Frankly, I can't imagine living any place where the Great Lakes isn't part of the background. The Great Lakes are truly in my blood. And I believe I share that with many people in the room. The Great Lakes are in your blood as well, too. One of the other things that is impressive about the Great Lakes Commission and its partners is it's a mature group, and it works together professionally and collaboratively, and more importantly, it knows how to get things done, and it does get things done. Speaking of getting things done, we need to celebrate the successes and partnerships and recognize the accomplishments that we have. We're in the middle of an unprecedented era of the program, the Great Lakes Restoration Initiatives. The GLRI has made a tremendous impact in Wisconsin. Wisconsin, we have 5 areas of concern. And as I speak to you today, we're working on one of those areas of concern right now. The Sheboygan River lies between the cities of Milwaukee and Green Bay. I'm sorry, well, lies between this, yeah, that's right, Milwaukee and Green Bay, and is impaired due to the presence of PCB and PAHs in the sediments. This summer, along with our partners, EPA, Corps of Engineers, and other governmental officials, we began an extensive dredging project that will cost anywhere from $50 to $80 million and will be finished by the end of this December. By the end of this December, we hope to have the Sheboygan River in full recovery and eventually delisted. And I can't tell you how excited the people of Wisconsin are about this project. Not only the people of Wisconsin, the people of Sheboygan County and Sheboygan, and I think all the other unforeseen or users of the resource, whomever they may be. It's a wonderful project, and I can just say it's cool. The success of the GLRI has its roots in partnerships among organizations and agencies that represent Great Lakes interests. We sincerely appreciate the leadership Congress and the Obama administration have had to provide funding. But make no mistake about it, this region would not receive the funds and the dollars that it will be getting under the GLRI if it were not for a united expressing our priorities and our needs together. I'm happy to report that the Great Lakes Commission just adopted 6 new resolutions, and one of them calls for extending the GLRI 5 years into the future. As part of the As part of that resolution, we also called upon EPA to improve effectiveness of the GLRI and build on its successes. We think it's a good program, and we think we can make it stronger and better by enabling more watershed projects and by simplifying some of the administrative requirements. One of the priorities of the chair of the Great Lakes Commission will be to work with EPA to make the GLRI better. So what are our priorities as a Great Lakes Commission? Well, I'll give you 3 for the next year. The Farm Bill. The Farm Bill is very important to us in our regulation and reduction of nutrients from agricultural fields. And we will work with Congress as best we can to make the Farm Bill better. AIS. AIS is on everybody's plate, it seems like, and it's clearly front and center on the Commission's plate, and we will work with that as well, too. Ballast water treatment and control of Asian carp will be front and center on the Commission. And lastly, as I alluded to, the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative will be front and center on our plate as well, too, and we work with our partners, EPA and the federal government, to improve that program and make it as best as we can. Thank you very much for all your work and coming to this conference and working with us. As the new chair of the Great Lakes, I look forward to the Commission working with all the groups around the table. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much, Ken. Our next speaker is Will Friedman. Mr. Friedman became the president and CEO of the Cleveland-Cuyahoga County Port Authority in June of 2010. Before that, he spent 25 years in port management, real estate development, the international supply chain, and multimodal distribution. He's previously served the industry with Duke Realty Corporation. He was the CEO of the Ports of Indiana for 4 years. Prior to that, he spent 10 years with the Port of Seattle. And since taking over here in Cleveland, the port has achieved a series of accomplishments, including the construction of an online dock rail loop, the port's first major capital investment, providing financing for a range of major construction projects, including a $275 million Flats East Bank project, and opening an 88-acre nature preserve on Lake Erie, and reducing operating expenses by 22%. In addition to that, we are especially pleased to have a few words from one of our local hosts and sponsors, and the sponsor of the boat tour this evening, Mr. Will Friedman. Will?
Well, thank you, Tim. It's great to be here, and thank you to the Healing Our Waters Coalition for assembling in Cleveland this week. I hope you've been enjoying your stay here, and I hope you'll come back. I think you've been able to see and experience, a lot of good things are happening in Cleveland. We've always rocked, and now we are definitely on a roll. At the Port of Cleveland, we do 3 things primarily. We operate the port itself, providing shipping solutions. We provide a range of customized finance solutions for Ohio enterprises. And most recently and most relevant for you, we now lead critical environmental projects to renew and enhance our waters and our shoreline. One example, which if you are on the dinner cruise tonight, you will see a brand new work boat, a debris harvester boat, one of 2 matching vessels, which we received a GLRI grant for in 2011. That boat will be out sort of shadowing the dinner cruise boat tonight, and we're really excited to be putting those vessels into service in order to continue the cleanup in the Cuyahoga OAC. We are, in addition, one more quick plug, if you'll permit me. At 4 o'clock, if you're going to go to the breakout sessions, please try to attend the Sustainable Sediment Management session. Several members of my staff, as well as some of our consultants, will be providing an update on sediment planning here in Cleveland Harbor. So with that, again, enjoy Cleveland, and I hope you will come back soon. Thanks again.
Okay, thank you very much, Will. And to introduce our next speaker is a friend of many of ours and a Great Lakes champion in many ways, Mr. Cam Davis, Senior Advisor to the Administrator of US EPA. Cam?
Feels funny to be introducing other people, but it's my honor to be able to welcome to the stage and introduce Bob Perciasepe. Bob is at EPA our Deputy Administrator and Chief Operating Officer. Before joining EPA during this tour of duty, he had been appointed by President Clinton to serve as the nation's top water official, and that is Assistant Administrator for the Office of Water at EPA, and then later the Assistant Administrator for the Office of Air. He held positions before that within state and municipal government, including as Secretary of the Environment for the state of Maryland, and before that with working in certain positions within the city of Baltimore, a city within a watershed that's not quite as superior as what we have here. Thank you, everybody. Bob Perciasepe.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here, and I want to thank all of you for being here because you're the energy behind everything that we are doing. And it's great to have the opportunity to speak before the joint session and speak before a joint session that's filled with so many people from different fields and who all are bound together by the commitment to revitalizing the Great Lakes. It's certainly energizing for me to come from Washington, D.C. to get energized by you. It's also great to share a chance to speak with Assistant Secretary of the Army, Darcy, who will be following me, I believe, when I'm done here, who, as you know, is heading the Corps of Engineers, which is a major partner with EPA in dealing with many of the issues we have under the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. The Great Lakes contain 6 quadrillion gallons of fresh water. And I know you all know this, but I have to say it every once in a while to remind myself. It's 1/5 of the world's surface freshwater, 95% of the U.S. freshwater, surface water. They certainly are beautiful. We've seen that just being here with this beautiful weather in Cleveland, but they also play a critical role in protecting the health of millions of people and bolstering the economies of the communities near the lake. Some 42 million Americans and Canadians continue to depend on the Great Lakes for drinking water. And the water support 1.5 million jobs, and those jobs have $62 billion in wages annually. Last week, Administrator Jackson met with Canadian Environment Minister Peter Kent to sign the amended Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement. And as she said then, for the Great Lakes to continue taking care of us, we need to continue taking care of them. And I think that's what brings us all together. But I want to point out from my own personal experiences that this is a sentiment that President Obama himself has expressed. He committed to this treasured water body, has enabled those of us in his administration to make real progress, and to work with many of you who are eager to clean up and protect the Great Lakes. He's argued for a comprehensive strategy and enlisted the resources of multiple federal agencies so that we can work with all of you to support a new standard of care and protection for these waters. Thanks to the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative the President unveiled 3 years ago, we've made great progress already, and we've been hearing about that over the last several days. The interagency task force, the federal interagency task force, which comprises 11 departments, federal level agencies, has spent time focusing on a wide range of issues facing the Great Lakes. And last year, the task force announced that we would focus on 3 priorities. One of those, in partnership with the Corps of Engineers, is cleaning up priority areas of concern, and we've heard about that several times already. But we know that these places are important in terms of the long-term health of the Great Lakes, and they need to be a priority. My first day on the job as the Assistant Administrator for Water in the Clinton administration, I was sworn in a parking lot and went to the airport and flew to Windsor, Canada to go to a Great Lakes meeting where we talked about trying to get something done on the areas of concern, and that was 18 years ago. So it's just personally wonderful to see the kind of progress we are now starting to make. Another priority that the task force has outlined, especially with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, USGS, the Great Lakes Fishery Commission, and others, is to continue the efforts to deal with invasive species entering the Great Lakes. Our administration has a zero-tolerance policy for allowing the establishment of a self-sustaining population of Asian carp and other species that threaten the delicate food web of the largest freshwater system on Earth. And I would dare to say probably in this solar system. Gotta think big. And finally, working with USDA and other agencies, reducing nutrients that cause harmful algal blooms and other coastal issues, especially from priority watersheds like the Fox River, Green Bay, Saginaw River and Bay in Michigan, the Maumee River, and the western basin of Lake Erie. Our task force met earlier today, and the federal agencies reaffirmed our commitment to those three priorities, and we've sought input from many people over the last year as we've been focusing on how we continue working on the initiative, and it's great to say that we have broad support for those three priority areas. But I want to be clear that we're not doing those three priorities to the absolute exclusion of other needs that the Great Lakes have. For example, preventing persistent bioaccumulative toxics continues to be a very powerful beacon on our radar screen, and we're working to repair many of the urban water systems and to reduce combined sewer overflows and stormwater inputs to the Great Lakes and all the pollutants that go along with that. And some of our air programs at EPA also are going to have direct beneficial impacts on the Great Lakes. And in particular, I'll mention last December, we finalized the mercury and air toxic standards for power plants, MATS we call it, mercury and air toxic standards, which will significantly reduce, 90% actually, the mercury that is emitted from coal-fired power plants in the United States, which then in turn reduce the mercury deposition on the lake. And we know how important that is. And bioaccumulative toxics, whether it's working in the areas of concern or dealing with the multimedia inputs from stormwater or from the air, is a vitally important direction that we continue to go in. And it's important to remember that multimedia sense of issues that we have here in the Great Lakes. We can't solve it one way or the other. We have to look at all those different inputs. Now I'm up here, and I understand I haven't really looked in detail at the program, but it says something about a special announcement. And you notice so far I haven't made a special announcement. So now I'll do one. I'd like to take the opportunity now to announce 2 new EPA Great Lakes Restoration Initiative grants that will have a direct impact. First is a grant of nearly $1 million to the Ohio EPA to accelerate local implementation of green stormwater control practices within Cuyahoga County. As I mentioned before, stormwater is an important component of what we need to be working at, particularly when we have a relatively small, as you all know, surface drainage area into the lakes, plural. But this grant will allow 10 pervious pavement demonstrations, 12 bioretention cells, 2 rainwater harvesting demonstrations. I just saw one of those in Seattle on Thursday, which was quite interesting. 2,000 square feet of community rain gardens, 21,000 square feet of vegetative bioswales, and restoration and enhancements of 2 wetlands. we will be needing to make sure we can see how these work so we can scale them up. The second grant that I want to announce is more than $750,000 toward green infrastructure for Newell Creek watershed. The Chagrin River Watershed Partners Incorporated and its project partners will install green infrastructure projects at targeted sites in that watershed. Congratulations. I know one site is the Great Lakes Mall, and they'll be doing a lot of work that I'm not going to go into great detail here on the parking lots, but we expect to reduce 309 tons of sediment, 611 pounds of nitrogen, and 303 pounds of phosphorus from those projects. And of course, we'll be watching to see how they work. These programs are important because we're going to need to continue building on these, and we want to build on that progress that's already been made, not just when it comes to cleaning up the Great Lakes, but we have to see how this would even expand to all the waters in the country, and I'll say something about that at the end here. You know, I think it comes, I think everybody in the room knows that this month, or this fall, is the 40th anniversary of the signing of the Clean Water Act in 1972. You know, the Declaration of Independence has the pursuit of happiness in it, which I think is one of the best things I've ever read in a government document. But the Clean Water Act is a close second to me when it says that the purpose of the law is to restore the physical, chemical, and biological integrity of the nation's waters. That was written by the United States Congress. It's amazing how much we've been able to do and how much we've been able to achieve in the time that we've been working on this. You know, reflecting back in that 40 years, what the American people were facing in terms of health threats, in terms of environmental threats. I mean, some of the issues that we were dealing with are pretty much unimaginable to young people today, and even to me, not being a young people. You know, waste from municipal sewage treatment plants, untreated, industrial waste with no controls. It was quite a remarkable time. And 80 to 90% of our systems had no way to monitor even what was being discharged. In the time since its passage, the Clean Water Act has kept billions of pounds of sewage and chemicals and trash out of the waterways. And we've seen waterways go from wastelands to community centerpieces, bustling with redevelopment and activity. We've doubled the number of American waters that meet safety standards for swimming and fishing. And we've developed credible science, spurred countless innovations in technology. All 50 states, all territories, and almost 40 Native American tribes have established water quality standards to help protect for swimming, drinking, and aquatic life. And today, close to 2/3 of America's assessed waterways meet those water quality standards. Part of our success has been to pay close attention to the urban areas. And we've seen a resurgence in urban waterfronts from Washington, D.C., Boston, Chicago, and even here in Cleveland. And bodies of water that were once too polluted to fish or swim in, we can now take pride in our local communities. I know Clevelanders probably have heard this more than they want to about the Cuyahoga River and how some flotsam and jetsam on it, along with a little bit of accelerant, was burning a couple of times back in the late 60s, which iconically spread all across the country and spurred, among other things, Congress. And that continues to be a rallying cry for America, that we have pictures of that, and we don't want to go back to that. And I find it warming in a way that when I come to Cleveland, I know that there are foundations here, nonprofit foundations in Cleveland that have Burning River in their title. There are festivals in Cleveland about the Burning River. There's even a beer named after the Burning River. And so it's a sense of pride, I think, that spurring on those great advances we've made in the country helped change the waterfront and the way Cleveland looks at the lake as opposed to turning its back to it. You know, as the Great Lakes go, so goes national policy with respect to water. And things have changed a lot since we were looking for a pulse for Lake Erie. I'm not going to say those other words. The lessons and experiences we've learned here through Great Lakes have had an indelible influence on the rest of the country. Not only did it spur action nationally, but it continues to spur action across the country and help clean water efforts everywhere. We've seen a number of extraordinary advances in the protection of water, but we know we have challenges today that are immense. As we've peeled that onion of clean water away, we've found more and more levels of things that we have to deal with. We have aging infrastructure now. We have runoff from agriculture and from urban streets. We have algae blooms that are resurging. And we have financial resources that are not quite what they were in the past. The Great Lakes are and continue to be, and with all of your energy, will continue to be into the future, an inspiration to the entire country on clean water. And the work we're doing here and the momentum that we are building has to help build that inspiration, not only for us here in this region, but also for the rest of the country. And all of you in this room are vested in that potential of stimulating and inspiring the rest of the nation. And I'm proud to be a very small part of that, and I'm happy to receive the energy from you and the inspiration from you as we go forward. So thank you for inviting me today, and thank you for everything everyone in this room is doing to protect this immense and wonderful resource. Thank you.
And you have been watching coverage of Great Lakes Week right here on Great Lakes Now, live from Cleveland. We'll be back in just a moment.